Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have a lot of uncongested airspace in West Virginia, as we do in South Dakota, but the real test of the design of these systems is whether or not they can continue to operate at 50 below wind chills, because that's something that we have in our state. And
we don't.
that will test the delivery to my house of whatever it is I order from Amazon. I want to thank you for holding the hearing, Mr. Chairman. The issue of unmanned aviation is an important one that touches on many areas within the committee's broad jurisdiction, and I look forward to hearing from our witnesses today. Unmanned aviation is undoubtedly the next significant frontier in the aviation sector. The FAA currently accommodates limited flights by unmanned aircraft in the National Airspace System with case-by-case approvals, but widespread integration for safe and routine access will require substantial work by the FAA and other stakeholders. Given the potential benefits of unmanned aviation, the last FAA reauthorization bill in 2012 directed the agency to develop the safety standards necessary to ensure this relatively new technology can operate safely and seamlessly with existing manned aviation in our nation's airspace. I look forward to hearing a progress report from Administrator Huerta regarding the FAA bill's mandates and how the FAA intends to utilize the 6 recently announced test sites to establish safety standards and regulations for the safe flight of unmanned aircraft. With regard to the expected benefits of unmanned aviation, I look forward to hearing further analysis of how the market for unmanned aircraft is expected to develop under the regulatory framework directed by the FAA bill, including some specifics on how safe integration of unmanned aircraft could benefit agriculture producers, weather forecasting, and public safety. As safety regulators work through the challenges of the integration of unmanned aircraft, questions related to privacy have certainly received a lot of attention. I look forward to hearing from the witnesses regarding the current framework of privacy protections, including at the 6 test sites, and discussing what role, if any, the FAA should have in policing those concerns. Of course, as we consider the privacy implications for unmanned aircraft, we will likely need to think beyond the new common image of military-style drones. Perhaps Amazon's recent discussion about possibly using unmanned aircraft for package deliveries has already done that. These aircraft are currently being flown, albeit in limited fashion, around the world, and benefits certainly look promising. We must also remember that the aviation industry is a competitive worldwide industry, and the timely resolution of both the safety issues and privacy concerns will be necessary for the U.S. to utilize such technologies while also maintaining its leadership position in this emerging aviation sector. So while this is certainly not the only hearing this committee will hold on this topic, I look forward to today's discussion, Mr. Chairman, of these challenging issues, and I want to thank the witnesses who are here for their participation. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Huerta, do you believe the FAA will be able to meet the December 30th, 2015 deadline for safe integration of unmanned aerial aircraft systems into the National Airspace System?
I believe that we will be able to demonstrate safe integration and what is required for integration of unmanned aircraft, but of necessity I believe it's going to be staged. I think that as we were just talking about, there are a variety of different potential uses for these aircraft throughout the National Airspace System, and the aircraft have different characteristics and different performance specifications. A big part of what we're trying to accomplish through the designation of the test sites is to create a research platform to help us surface those questions and to deal with them in a common way so that we're able to prioritize and identify what are the things that we need to consider as we certify these aircraft, as we certify the operators of them, and as we determine how best to accomplish safe integration.
And what type of data do you expect the FAA is going to need from those 6 test sites to safely advance the integration process? And then a follow-up to that would be, does the FAA have a mechanism in place in order to gather, store, and use the data that would be collected from these 6 test sites?
We're working with the test site operators to finalize their research plans, but in our original solicitation, we identified a number of research areas that we wanted the test site operators to focus on. These include sense and avoid technology, which we've talked about. How do we ensure that these aircraft have the ability to interact with one another? They also include questions that we need to consider with respect to certification characteristics. What is an appropriate level of certification based on what the aircraft is and how it might be used? There are also issues relating to how do these aircraft operate? What is their record of reliability in different climate conditions, in different geographic configurations, and hence that's why we have a very broad base of geographic and climatic conditions that the test sites represent. In terms of how that data is developed, each of the test site operators is required to present a plan to the agency of what data will be collected, how that data will be updated, how it will be stored. And the primary basis for doing that is to ensure that it is on public display what information is being developed, but it also does a great job of serving our research needs and providing a common understanding of what's out there.
And what you're talking about is the small UAS, correct?
No, this is all.
This is everything, okay.
This is everything.
All right.
The test sites, what they form is the basis and a platform, and I think a focal point for really developing a very focused environment in which we can do what a lot of people want us to do, which is to give it the degree of focus in a structured way so that we can make balanced decisions of how do we accommodate these safely into our national airspace system.
As we heard Mr. Arcangeli talk about, particularly with regard to the video that we saw, the Yamaha aircraft, it's going to be too heavy to be included in the small UAS rule. And the reason I ask that is because most of the agricultural benefits that he talked about and elaborated on, you know, are going to, it's going to be a different kind of unmanned aircraft than the smaller than 55-pound one that we were talking about. The 140 pounds, isn't that what you said?
That's correct.
Right. So I guess the question is, do you envision a regulatory structure in the near future that would allow for commercial use of the slightly larger UASs so that the market potential, and I'm thinking, of course, with regard to agricultural applications, can be realized?
One of the things that we need to explore is what can we do through regulation versus what can we do through certificates of authorization. The certificate of authorization is the process that we use now, and we deal with these in an experimental capacity. We recognize that that is not sustainable long term, because effectively what that means is these operations are accommodated by exception, and our goal is to get to integration. The regulatory process of necessity and by design is something that is a very deliberative, thoughtful process, but it also takes a lot of time. Finding that right balance between what we accomplish through regulation versus what we can continue to accommodate through certificates of authorization, I think, is a key part of what we need to do through these test sites and our ongoing activities.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, we have a lot of people here today. I yield back.